Good afternoon. Welcome to this information session to learn more about our National Working Group on Teacher Retention. It is co-hosted by the American Association for Employment and Education and Upbeat. We are excited by your interest to learn more about this opportunity. My name is Tim Dubert. I'm the Executive Director of AAEE. Please allow me to cover just a few housekeeping matters before we begin. All attendees have been muted by default. However, you have the ability to unmute your microphone by simply pressing your space bar or clicking your microphone icon to ask questions or share comments. However, as we have many people attending today's session and it is being recorded, please help us avoid background noise by staying muted when you are not speaking. You are also encouraged to activate your video so we can see your friendly face. If you choose not to do so, we won't take offense. If you wish to ask a question or share a comment, you may type it into the chat tool and using the drop down to send it to, quote, all presenters and attendees, end quote. Or simply type, I'd like to speak in the chat, and I'll invite you to unmute yourself and speak. If you are not currently a member of AAEE or a customer of Upbeat, we invite you to please visit AAEE.org or teachupbeat.com, respectively, for more information. The purpose of today's information session is to help you learn more about participating in the National Working Group on Teacher Retention. The first cohort of this group was launched in October 2019, following my discussions with Henry Wellington, founder and CEO of Upbeat, who's been able to join us today, and our mutual desire to do even more to support those of you in the field. This first cohort listed here, if I advance my slide, there we go, listed here, involved a wide range of school systems and affiliated organizations in urban, suburban, and rural settings with varied sizes, and we hope to reflect a similar level of diversity within the second cohort. To tell you a little bit more about the group's activities and introduce a few members of the first cohort, I'll now turn it over to Brenda Tanner from Upbeat. Brenda?
Thanks, Tim. I'm really excited to be here, and I'll just say up front, during this challenging time, I have been fostering dogs, and I have a foster dog that won't leave my side right now. So if you hear snoring, just please understand, and I apologize for that. But I'm really excited to be here today to talk about the partnership that Upbeat has created with AAEE to focus on teacher retention. You know, that's a priority for AAEE, not just recruitment, but retention of teachers. And it's a huge, big priority for Upbeat. In fact, that's what we do. And we have talked about that in terms of working with partners across the country in terms of how do we build a climate and a culture in a school, and that's what Upbeat's focus is in terms of teacher engagement in order to retain teachers. So being able to work with partners in having this discussion throughout the year has been very powerful. We started last year with the group that Tim mentioned, and we met at the conference. We had at the pre-conference, which is one of the requirements to be a member of this group, because that's when we kick it off. And the focus is not on presenting, it's on discussion. So that's one reason when we were setting this up today, we decided to have it as a Zoom meeting to give you a sense of the format that we use. So last year we started with the pre-conference. We met during the day. Part of it is getting to know each other because a huge benefit of this is networking. We did that. We looked at some of the research on teacher retention, and we talked about what were problems of practice. Everyone gathered around and had deep conversations about issues they were facing. And before the day was over, what we decided to do, and again, it was a group decision, I didn't come in with the agenda for this, is we decided that we wanted to stay together as a team. We had predicted that would happen, but we weren't positive until the group decided on this. So we decided to meet every other month virtually throughout the year. We had hoped to be, Tim, in Louisville for our upcoming conference, but we know that we can meet virtually around that time to talk about the year. But what the group decided is they wanted to identify issues that were at the top of the list of priorities for them. And we debated, we talked, and we reached consensus. We further decided that we did not want to have a one-shot deal. So if we meet, somebody talks about a topic and we don't talk about it again. So we set up a year-long program that we would meet virtually around 3 topics that the group chose. We selected the first topic about how to engage principals and school administrators in the conversations about teacher retention. We know that so much work is done at the school level and how important that is. So we decided we would talk about that at the beginning, look at some research around that, and then come back the next month and continue the conversation. The second topic that the group chose was how to recruit and retain teachers of color. And I'm really excited to tell you at this time, we have one of our own organize that with a panel of very informed educators who shared such great strategies and resources with our group. We then came back we're coming back, sorry, I have to correct myself on this, our second time to continue that discussion, and we all faced the pandemic. We had conversations about what we should do, stay on course, or deal with the current issues. So what we decided at that time was we would open up our next 2 meetings to conversations about life in the pandemic. And we had open discussions, a lot of sharing. And so we did one before people were back in school, and then we decided to have the second one, our most recent one, after people were in school, so that they could talk about some of the issues they were facing. We then, our third topic had planned to be about developing school and university partnerships. And we hope to continue that in the future. But I wanted everyone to know that we don't have a preset agenda for the year. We really rely on the cohort to have a deep discussion and decide what would be their top priorities throughout the year. I think all of us can think of some right away, but we really do rely on the group to come up with those topics. And then we build those out through the year, with the hope being that if we can't be in Louisville together this year, next year, we would have the cohort end out. Now, what we also are doing is we want to increase the networking opportunity for everybody. So throughout this year, we hope to have our virtual meetings open for Cohort 1 members and Cohort 2 members, so that there can be some sharing of across larger groups, because we try to keep each cohort to a pretty tight group in order to facilitate that discussion and dialogue. So I thought that what would be best today is to let the cohort members speak. So we have 3 cohort members today, and I think, Tim, you have a slide that has everyone's name up for us, and really just hearing from them. And when I contacted them, I just asked, would you please talk about what the experience was for you? What were benefits, and just share that. So Melanie is going to begin. Each person is going to introduce herself and tell you a little bit about their background, where they're from, the size of their district, and then just give you some insights. Please ask questions throughout, or in the chat, post something. We'll monitor that so that we can follow up also at the end with the Q&A.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Melanie Simmons, and I am from Bedford County Public Schools in Virginia. And so I am the supervisor of new teacher support in the Office of Recruitment and Retention. So I help with recruitment. I place practicum and student teachers, new teacher, and mentor support. So Bedford County Public Schools is a rural school division with a little over 9,000 students. And our team was a brand new team. We were formed in July before we met this group and this conference last November. So our team had lots of questions, and we were trying to find out best practices and ideas. And when we found AAEE and this working group, it was the best thing that ever happened to us. The camaraderie, the connections, the ideas that we received have just been invaluable. So some of the highlights of this group, number one, have been the camaraderie and the connections. Just making connections with both K-12 and college sides, and then being able to stay in touch in a variety of methods throughout the year. Again, this has just been invaluable to our team, especially being new and needing lots of guidance and directions and ideas. And then number two, the ideas and time to reflect. So we discuss topics that are meaningful and relevant. And not only that, but it gives us ideas and then allows us to take time to pause for reflection. So I just can't say enough about this organization and enough about this working group. It's just been huge for our division and for our team. And I just recommend both the conference and this working group to all of you. And now I'm going to pass it on to Dana.
Hi, so my name is Dana Morrison, and I am in my office that has lots of windows, so I'm not an angel if I'm glowing, because I feel like I'm glowing. But anyway, I'm not complaining because I love all my windows. But I am the recruitment manager for East Baton Rouge Parish School System, and we have parishes, not counties. And our school system is the second largest school system in the state of Louisiana. We have about 80 different schools, and we have 41,000 students. And for me, I was a middle school teacher for 28 years and never ever dreamed that when I would grow up, I would be a recruiter for a school system. But when I came, our director now was the recruiter, and she just knew so many things. And I oftentimes felt very inadequate about what I did. And so last year when we went to AAEE, the conference, the very first session that I sat in was with Brenda. And just like Melanie, it was just an aha moment. I really wanted to cry for a second because it was just wonderful. And the things that people shared were so meaningful. But I think the biggest thing for me was to be invited to this group was to learn, because oftentimes I felt like a first year teacher all over again. I felt like everything I tried didn't always work out, and I wanted to know how to do what I'm doing in a more efficient way. And so meeting everyone and being able to just spend time with them and talk to them. And even like this last time, the last meeting that we had, one of the difficulties has been, do we place student teachers? Do we allow them to complete field experience? Do we let them come part, and then do we have COVID daily check-ins? What do we do? And just to have all these wonderful educators share their thoughts about what they would do and what they think would be best, it was just really, it's very, very powerful. So I encourage you, if you've never been to AAEE, the conference, it is just, it's well worth your time. And then being part of this group is just something. And when Tim said there was going to be a second group and we might not be included, we were like, oh no, please let us still come, because it's just that important. So again, Brenda and Henry and Tim, thank you so much for this opportunity. And thank you for all that you do all the time for educators across this country. And I'll turn it over to Renitha.
Hello, everyone. I am Ronitha Darrett, and I'm with the Evansville-Vandenberg School Corporation, and I'm in the state of Indiana, where we are known for basketball and corn. And that's important to me, and I'm going to cycle back to that so that you know why I said that. I am the Director of Student and Teacher Support in our corporation. Our corporation is the third largest corporation in the state of Indiana. We have 22,000 students and we have 3,400 employees. In our area, we're considered to be in an urban setting. What my role entailed was and I say was because as of about a week ago, and I don't think Tim and Brenda or anyone knows about this who's been part of these meetings, I was reassigned in the middle of last week to be an administrator in a K-5 virtual school that our corporation is hosting. So not only am I a principal, I'm also a director. And the very first week of coming into my job, I was a teacher in this same school that I'm now the administrator of. And that's just the world we live in. But back to my past and my current, I came into this role having an experience as a teacher and then also having an experience as an administrator in a K-8 school. I was an assistant principal in a K-8, and then I moved over to a principalship in a K-8, and now I'm at the director level, also wearing the hat again as a principal. I cover in my director role student teachers, recruitment, and also the evaluation tool for our entire district. When I was exposed to AAEE, as Dana has said, I went to an actual recruitment event. And my first year in this role, because I was new and I wanted to know more, I went into the recruitment events and I just started talking to all the recruiters and started asking them, how can I do this job better? Because in my mind, I would always hire teachers in my building because in my district, principals have the task of doing the hiring. They just get it approved through HR. So we do all of our interviews and do all of that, looking at applications and things of that nature. So when I rolled into this new job, which is I'm going into my third year, at the beginning, I was going into these recruitment events through the lens of a principal. And I knew what I needed to do for my building, but to think about this on a scale of an entire corporation that is the third largest in the state of Indiana, my mindset really had to change. So when I'm going around talking to these other recruiters, kind of picking their brain, one person said, I too felt the same way you did. Have you ever thought about going to the AAEE conference? And I said, what? Tell me more. I don't even know about this organization. I've been in education for 15 plus years, and this is the first time I've heard of it. And she said, well, if you have a few minutes, nobody's at your table and nobody's at my table. Let's talk. So we talked, and it really turned into a wonderful opportunity because that within a week from coming from that recruitment event, I actually registered for the conference. I went into the first cohort, was super excited that they picked me to be in the cohort. And I will just say the rest is history. When I was at the conference and at the cohort meeting, I sat in the room of, I think on the first slide, it felt like 50 people, but I think it was probably only 10 or 15. And I'm sitting there, a person from Indiana with only, and I can't emphasize enough, only 22,000 students, where some people are saying, as Melanie said, I think 44,000 students in her district, or Dana maybe said that, all the way up until like DC, where they're talking about hundreds, 200, 300,000 students, let alone the number of employees. And I'm sitting there. But then I was able to get exposed in that cohort and through the week, several days in the conference with like corporations. And I started to feel like there are people within this cohort, there are people within this conference that get what I'm dealing with. And the benefit of being in this cohort, but also being part of the AAEE conference, is that you're able to not only network, because every time we go to a conference, we network. But when we go to those conferences and network, we don't, most of the time in my experience, you don't walk away with someone saying, here's my contact, here's my business card, reach out to me. And that's what happened. I had so many business cards. I keep those business cards in my little satchel that I take. and I have them stapled together for AAEE conference, because those are the first people I go to when I need to know. For example, I did my very first virtual new teacher recruitment. I didn't go to anyone in my district because I'm the only person who holds this role. I went to the people that I met at the conference and in the cohort and said, okay, let me pick your brain. What should I do? What can I do? And I started to get a ton of, this is what you can do. I try this. It might not work for your corporation, but how about you think about this? And I created my first virtual new teacher orientation, and that's one of many examples and how people give you tangible support in this group. And I will tell you that it has been far and few between in the support that I've gotten compared to other conferences. As far as getting to know where your people are from, and back to the corn and back to the Indiana Hoosiers, and we're known for basketball. That actually has connected me with some of the people, because they'll say to me, I was in Indiana. Where are you at in Indiana? And that connection was there. Oh yeah, I actually had a boyfriend who was in this area. Your corporation is built on this. So even though you're coming together nationwide, there are people who know about your corporation. Because this conference is so large, someone's going to know you by the state that you're in. So I appreciate being part of this cohort. I too am going to miss it tremendously based off the type of support, not the support, because I know I'll continue to have the support, but coming together as a group and being able to see familiar faces. And I think Brenda would attest to that first day that we met. I mean, we were digging in deep that very first day. And I was like, oh, I love this group. We're transparent. We want to talk about hard issues, but we also walked away with solutions. And I can't emphasize enough in this cohort, if you are a solution finder, you definitely want to be in this cohort, because that's how Brenda and her team and Tim format this cohort of people. So thank you, and I'm glad to see everyone participating.
Oh, I'd like to thank all of you. And you're right. This cohort group it's a working group. It's not a sit and listen to presentations and don't have an idea to share. And what I loved about the group that first day is that, I mean, it was the engagement right out of the chute. Nobody was just sitting there waiting. And we broke up in different groups to get to meet each other, and the conversation was just fantastic. I know when I finally said it's time for lunch, a couple of people came up to me and said, it can't be. And somebody said, I really thought, oh, this is going to be too long, and said, I'm not even looking at the time anymore, because it wasn't about me, and it wasn't about what I was saying or doing. It was about the sense that we were uniting people who were interested in teacher retention. And we were having great conversations about what that means and how to engage teachers and how to look at the research on teacher retention and then what to do about it. And I know from my work at Upbeat, that's so important for us. You can talk all you want, but unless you think of things that are actionable to take, a step to take, and you've got this network of people to call on, has been pointed out, we've just talked, right? So thank you all. I know everybody on the call is really busy, but these three ladies gave their time, especially to talk about this. I know Henry's on. Before we go on the timeline requirements or anything, Henry, did you want to say anything about the working group?
Yeah, I just want to say that I heard from Brenda the day of the working group, and I heard about just how great that session was and the ideas that were exchanged. And I just want to take the time to thank Brenda for planning that session and leading this group and kicking it off, and working alongside Tim. She's done an amazing job, and I'm really thankful to have her as a colleague. And then, I've been able to join the virtual sessions and help plan them. And I know that from my work at Upbeat, teacher retention is something that is a problem. It's been a problem for a long time, and it's it's only going to continue to be a challenge with what's happening with COVID and some of the challenges around the profession right now and how attractive it is. So groups like these are incredibly important for people to be able to share ideas with each other, be resources to each other, support each other. And frankly, you know, given everything that's happening in our country right now, it's really inspiring to have this group of people from all over the country come together in this way. So I have loved to be a part of it. I'm really happy that, you know, we've been able to have this partnership with AAEE, and I'm really thankful to the people that have been in the group to share your experiences. And I'm thankful that you all are here. I'm glad you're interested in the group, and I know all of us would be happy to answer any questions, myself included. So thank you for joining.
Thank you, Henry. So I've got up the slide with timeline requirements and next steps. I'm realizing I made a bit of a typographical error, or maybe would be confusing. So the ASAP, so I've indicated, you know, we want you to register for the conference. Again, that's a prerequisite of participating in the National Working Group that kicks off on the day before the conference kicks off. So the National Working Group is on the 26th of October, and then the conference is on the 27th, 28th, and 29th. Again, both activities are virtual. But what I want to clarify is the 25 registrations has to do with the National Working Group, not the conference. But we will set up a wait list because we will go through a process with those who registered for the working group, yourselves included. As you do that, we'll you know, make sure that the people who've signed up are following through on registering for the conference and following through on those commitments. And so please, if you go and you see that there's already, you know, all that's left is waitlist, please go ahead and register for waitlist, and we'll be in touch. So please do that. Then again, the inaugural convening of the National Working Group is from 11 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Monday the 26th, with a break for lunch. The conference again, 27th through the 29th. Then we'll have bi-monthly virtual working group meetings. Summer of 2021, we'll have another virtual convening, a bit of a gathering, probably in June or July. And then in October of 21, so a year from now, 13 months from now almost, we'll be in Louisville, Kentucky for the 2021 conference. So that's what I wanted to share with you on those points. So again, want to move into some Q&A and welcome any questions, or we certainly would love to hear any comments, feedback on what you've heard today, what you're thinking. I've got my contact information and Brenda's contact information. I didn't share out Melanie and Dana and Ronitha, but I'm sure they wouldn't mind if we do that in a follow-up communication. But we'll make sure we'll check with all you ladies first. So, okay, I got a question posted here. Besides networking, how has your participation in Cohort 1 changed how you recruit and retain teachers? And I will open it up to Melanie, Dana, or Ronitha to respond. Ronitha's got her hand up already.
It totally changed from how I stand in my recruitment events and the data collection I get from them and how I follow up. Because again, as a principal, I didn't think through all of that. I didn't have to think through all that because the person was applying for my position. So I'm going to these recruitment events and I'm standing because I was told you don't sit. So I'm standing, but when I'm there, I am being very quick, 5-minute max. And I was taught this through one of the events at the conference. You're real quick, you're doing things that they believe in their life. I'm taking selfies. I'm not that kind of person that takes selfies, but I was told at the conference, you take selfies, you tag them with your LinkedIn, you do those kind of things. So it totally helped me get an idea of how I recruit and how I recruit effectively in the age of everyone has an opportunity to pick that recruit up as soon as possible. So that's my answer.
So I'll just give an example. This is going to retaining teachers. We, of course, being new, didn't have a way to onboard teachers at all in any of our new teachers. So at the conference, Shamar Rose shared how they did a completely virtual onboarding site to onboard their teachers. Of course, I fell in love with it. I said, hey, would you share this with me? So she had to get permission from her district to share with me. She did share it with me, and that pretty much saved my life, literally, when it came to when COVID hit, because we had to change everything to virtual. It has been overwhelming for our teachers, our new teachers, because of all the training that all of our teachers had to go through, let alone our new teachers. But for me to have an onboarding site, to have everything in one place, to have everything linked to it, and that came from her. And so that literally was a lifesaver for me. And so she shared that site with me, more than willing. I mean, we went back and forth throughout the year. Just, she was a great resource for me. And so literally just that one thing, I could name you more, but literally that one thing was just a huge resource for me and has been a lifesaver for us and for our new teachers right now. And they all rave about the site, but it came from her idea.
So my big takeaway from all this was, I remember meeting a lady from Fulton County, and she was like, you have to recruit all the time, Dana. You have to recruit wherever you are and recruit. And I'll give you an example. So yesterday we have a store that's going out of business in our community. So I went by there to get some shoes, look for some shoes. And I was in there, and there was a young lady in there, and she had a mask on, and she asked if she could help me. And I said, yes. And anyway, long story short, I said, what are you planning on doing after the store closes? And she said, well, I'm going to be a teacher. And I almost passed out. I was like, what? And she goes, by the way, are you Miss Morrison that works for East Baton Rouge Parish? And I said, and I had a mask on too. And I said, yes, I am. And she goes, oh, I met you this summer in your group, because that's one of the things I learned too, is about building rapport with people. And she said, I was in your group this summer virtually, and you helped place me this year in my school for student teaching. And then we got on and we talked a little bit longer. And I said, well, when you finish, and she graduates in December, I said, would you be willing to work for our school system? And she said, oh, yes, ma'am, definitely. Will you consider interviewing me? And so I have an interview with her next week. And it was just really incredible. And I just can't even begin to tell you how happy I was to find a teacher in the shoe store on the 29th or the 30th of September who's graduating in December and who wants to teach school. So that was amazing. So I learned those kinds of things and that thought process, and of really encouraging people to become teachers. And I'm grateful for this experience to do that.
Awesome. Love it.
Hey, Tim, would it be okay if I said something I learned?
Of course.
So as a facilitator, I'm also a former superintendent and also former head of HR. And when we had our discussions, in-depth discussions this year about recruiting and retaining teachers of color, I think one of the things that I took away from that is, again, I was so reminded that it's a bigger issue than recruitment. It's a bigger issue than some of the things we typically say we need to do to recruit. It's looking at the culture, and we talked about how to really look at the culture of our districts. And as a superintendent, I knew that, but it was a great reminder for us to have those conversations about, from our policies at the board level all the way through. All of this recruitment and retention doesn't just reside in the HR office. And so to have those kind of conversations were really great reminders to me. And of course, Joy Ross, who facilitated that with a panel of individuals. Just, they were so powerful in some of the reminders for us, and then some of the strategies on building that climate and culture. So that was one of my big takeaways this year.
And Dr. Joy was actually the first person I met in the working group. And so needless to say, she's a wealth of knowledge, and all I felt like I was doing was just asking questions and writing. I mean, I would ask her questions and just write and write and write and write. And I just had notes and notes and notes and notes from her, and I will refer back to them just because in that working group, you have this time to again connect and just reflect on what people are saying. So you're asking questions, you're talking, but then you can go back and say, oh, wait a minute, like I've really been thinking about what you're saying. Can you explain this more? Or can you tell me more about this? So it's not just like you're hearing a presentation or it's this quick kind of chat. It's really this deep, meaningful conversations that you can expand on because when you're talking about culture, like Brenda said, when you're talking about these deep rooted, meaningful issues, it takes more than that. It does take time to really process those things. And I feel like that we've been able to do that with this group.
Can I add something, Brenda?
Certainly. Sorry, I was muted.
Oh, not a problem. Melanie brought up a good point as far as having authentic conversations. Another big takeaway that I had, because as we said, it's P12 along with university. And I remember there's a session at the conference where you can rotate through the tables and meet different people. And the way it's set up, you're going to get someone from almost everywhere, from P12, Southern states, Midwest, all of the above, and left and right. And one table I went to, we were sitting there with one of the major universities in our state. I think it's actually the largest public university in my state, if not the second. And the person who organized the recruitment event was there. And I said, oh, I went to your recruitment event last year. And she said, well, what did you think about it? And I looked at her and I said, do you want me to be honest? She said, oh, more than certain, I want you to be honest. She said, I'm new in this role and I want to hear how people experienced our event. So I shared with her that we had spent over $1,000 from our corporation to send about 3 or 4 people up to our university because it was told to us that this recruitment event had 400 plus potential teachers. So we spent that kind of money. And when we went there, we had only one person visit our table. And all the recruiters, it was you had New York, you had Alaska, you had everyone. You had people from Hawaii who came in to go to this recruitment event. And because I was told at AAEE, you go and network, I started going around this area, just talking to different recruiters and attempting to network. And they were like, how much did your corporation spend? And how much did your corporation spend? And we were all talking about the lack of results that we experienced at this university. And when I shared with her at the conference, this was my experience, she absorbed it, but she also later followed up with me and asked if I could be on a panel to help her improve her university's recruitment event. Because they were so large, she said, we are so disconnected with what people are experiencing because we know we have the students, but we also don't feel like in past administration, we needed to improve because, hey, everybody's going to come to us and we know we're going to collect their money. And that's how transparent she was with us. But for her to follow up with me, I think it was very eye-opening because again, people at AAEE, from my experience, they are all open to experiencing more and changing practices that are not best for kids and of course, their corporation or their university. So I'll never forget that.
Awesome.
Brenda, one other thing I wanted to share too was that at the AAEE conference last time, and as Tim says, AAEE, I met at a table with another group, and it was just a couple of us, and I told them that I wanted to really do a virtual job fair, and this was before this all happened. And I know Education Week has done one for years, but I wanted to do one for ourselves, and I was always scared because I'm in my mid 50s, and what do I know about hosting a virtual job fair? And but she was just so encouraging, and she was like, I think you should try to do it. And so I had started kind of working on everything toward this. And then my HR director came in and said, okay, Dana, so I want you to do a virtual job fair at the end of April. And I think because of my connections with all these wonderful people, I was ready to go. And our first job fair that we had in April, we had 700 people come. And that's just phenomenal. We never had that many in several fairs all put together. So it was really incredible.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, we've been enjoying doing the virtual career fairs, and it was something we dabbled in, and yes, I like to say AAEE. It just rolls off the tongue a little bit easier. But we've dabbled in virtual career fairs in the past, but I think that's a silver lining of this pandemic, is we've realized that it's really it's a great way to lower those geographic limitations on both recruiters and candidates, and bring those parties together. And so we appreciate that we've been able to host those, and we appreciate that others have been able to do that and kind of learn a few tricks about it from us. So any other, I'm looking at the chat, any other questions, comments that people want to post, or again, let me know in the chat if you want to speak, and then we'll go ahead and hear from you.
And Tim, while we're waiting to see if there are any more questions or chat, would you just go basic? I'm such a basic person. Like next step 1, 2, and no more than 3.
All right. Next step 1 is, I have been posting some information in the chat, but that's fine. I'm happy to reiterate. First step is to register for the working group itself, not the information session that we're in right now. Register for the working group, then go register for the conference, and that is a separate step. Registering for the working group will cost. There's no money involved with registering for the working group, but again, the prerequisite is that you then also have registered for the conference. So then go and register for the conference. You'll see that we encourage AAEE institutional membership through our pricing model. So you're not obligated to be a AAEE member to be in the working group. But again, we price it in such a way that it really would behoove you to become a member. And again, that's institutional membership. So it's you and any other representatives within your organization can be part of AAEE. And then the third step is just look for us to be in communication regarding the 26th, but certainly mark your calendar for the week of the 26th. So the 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th. And if you want to go to the job fair and recruit, the 30th. And I want to thank Melanie and Dana and Renitha for posting in the chat as well their contact information. So thank you all for doing that. Any other questions? And certainly if folks would like to follow up with Brenda or I, again, our email addresses are up on the screen. Feel free to send us an email and follow up next steps or just further clarification, what have you. Yeah. So I'm going to hang here for a minute, but and I'll just continue to monitor chat. But feel free if you've gotten what you need out of this, feel free to leave the call. But really appreciate everybody joining us today. And again, want to thank profusely Brenda, Melanie, Dana, and Renitha, and Henry as well for being able to join us today.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity and thank all of you for the time that you spent today, because we know you're inundated with so many new challenges. But please reach out to me if you have any specific questions about the group, a little bit more detail about how we conduct our meetings. I'll be glad to get back to you on that. So, but thank you all very much. And ladies, thank you so much for being part of Cohort 1, and we are going to continue Cohort 1 involvement. So we listen to you in terms of don't let us go. But I do appreciate all of you sharing your experiences with us today.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you. And then there were 16 and 15.
Hey, y'all.
Bye, Melanie.
It's
Thank
good to
you.
see you.
Good to see you.
See you in a couple weeks at the
All
conference.
right, sounds good.
Thank
No,
you.
yep. Michelle, you've got a question. Oh, I cannot hear you. No. You're showing. Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I had to change the speaker.
No worries.
How early will you know, if you're in the group, will you know how, I know the meetings are bi-monthly, will that schedule be put out pretty far in advance, or is it like month by month?
Yeah. So first of all, for your first question, I think that we haven't set a timeline, but I would commit to you that certainly by the end of next week I would like to figure out who's in the working group. But sooner than that if possible.
Okay.
And then as far as the bi-monthly meetings, Brenda, my recollection of how we handled with the first cohort is, we said what months we wanted to try to meet, but then it was a matter of kind of coordinating with the cohort members to identify what's the best, day of the week and time of day to meet. Is that fair?
That's exactly what we did. We decided that we would meet every other month virtually. Of course, we organized that around so that it might not have been a perfect schedule, but we then surveyed everybody and said, what day of the week works best? You'll never get everybody to agree, but we went with the majority on the day, and actually if they wanted morning or afternoon. Yeah. And we had strong participation throughout. I have to give that group credit. I mean, people might say I had something come up one month, but the next month they were on, and it didn't, it really, I was really surprised to have that many people that were able to adapt their schedules. So, but we sent it out very early. We talked about it at the conference, and then within a week or two, we were surveying everybody and getting the schedule so you could get on your calendar.
Brenda, do you remember what the conference, even last year, right, was end of October. What was the first monthly meeting or bi-monthly meeting?
We had meetings, let's see, we had, I think I have them here. January, March, May, July, and September. So the conference was in November, and so we didn't wait. Yeah. I mean, we just waited to January to get started because of all the short months in terms of the breaks for Thanksgiving and winter holidays and everything. So we waited and started our bi-monthlies in January.
Yep. Michelle, is that helpful?
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you so much.
Of course.
You're welcome.
Course. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome.
You guys have a good day.
You
You
too.
too. Thank you.
Tim,
Yes, Charles.
yes, I don't have a question, but I want to make a comment.
Please.
First of all, let me say that I'm very impressed with this. I received this email from Upbeat. I didn't have a clue what it was, in terms of inviting me to do this. And I do want to be a part of that. I'm planning on participating in the conference on the 26th. But here's my situation. As I explained to you earlier, that I'm a retired high school principal. I live in Athens, Georgia. That's the home of the University of Georgia. You have 40,000 students there. I won't get into all of that.
Yep.
But I retired in 2003, and I've served on the Board of Education for 16 years. And 12 of those years, I served as president of the board. Now, having said that, December the 31st, I am going off of the Board of Education in Clark County School District. But what I plan to do, and I have taken some notes here, and I may be emailing you earlier to send me some additional information, but what I'm planning to do, share all of this with the superintendent and just let her know that, hey, by me going off the board, and I'm quite sure that's going to be someone on that board going to want to participate in this, because retaining teachers, hiring and retaining teachers, that could be a Herculean task. And I was listening to some of the information that was shared today. I've been through all of that. But again, I'm very impressed, and that's what I plan to do. And I'm quite sure Clark County School District, in some form or fashion, a board member or someone from the central office is going to be affiliated with AAEE, and also Upbeat. Okay?
Love it.
That's
Love
great. That's great. Thank
And-
you.
Yeah.
Sure.
And Charles, please do, if you don't mind, please do send me an email follow-up, and I'd love to, support you and you and that organization, but even you specifically. FYI, we've got a very agreeable, I think, membership level for retirees and out of field, so that might be something of interest to you.
Sure.
Yeah, that's great. And send me a message, let me know, or if you want me to schedule a meeting with anybody to talk about the work that we're doing. And Charles, I'm a retired superintendent. So I'm very familiar working with board members. So it's always good to have one that is forward thinking and looking at issues and backing us up on that hard work we have to do.
Now, Brenda, you were superintendent where?
I was in 2 districts in Virginia, and I was an associate superintendent, chief officer in South Carolina. I was in 2 small districts in Virginia, Madison and Orange, and then I was in Horry County in South Carolina as a chief officer there.
Okay, I'm not too far from the line of South Carolina. Okay.
Yep. Well, I work with folks down in Newton. So,
Oh, yes, Newton County, yeah.
Yep, I sure do.
That's approximately 25 miles from me.
Oh, it is. Well,
yes,
close by then. Yes, yeah.
And in fact, prior to the beginning of this school term, I worked with the high school principal at Alcovey High School in Newton County.
Oh, okay.
Just giving them some tips in terms of opening up a high school.
Well, they always like to get that voice of experience,
Absolutely.
It's really helpful.
Sure.
And Nyree Sanders she's from Newton County Schools, and she was in our first cohort, actually.
Yes, so. Absolutely. So.
Yeah. Wonderful. And Yolanda, I see you're still on. I don't know. I see you're muted, but I don't know if you had any questions or thoughts that you wanted to share with us.
Good afternoon. This is Yolanda. I'm in New York City. I'm a consultant and coach, and I've been a teacher, an administrator, a director, a city director in New York City, and city director in Westchester County. And I enjoy everything that everyone's been sharing, and thank you very much. It just adds to my information.
Good.
So thank you.
Of course. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck, everyone, and stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again, Brenda.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for coordinating and doing all the tech piece.
No problem. I know we didn't really talk through my my intro, but hopefully that worked out.
That's all right. I think it did. I think, and the best thing was, you know, hearing from the participants. I mean, they're just,
Yeah.
they were there.
Right.
So
Yeah, you can't do any better than having people, you know, just speak from their heart and their
that's right.
personal
That's
experience.
exactly
People
right.
from the
That's
field.
exactly right.
The best testimonial we can get for an organization or for this group is
That's true.
people from the field. So
That's true.
Melanie, so thankful for Melanie and Dana and Renitha. And
I know. They're, I mean, I love the fact that as practitioners, I mean, they had concrete examples of actions they took this year.
Yeah.
You know, and I used to tell people that, you know, you go to these conferences, and I remember as a teacher and even as an administrator, you go to a conference and you come back with these big bags. I used to say the conference bag, you have stuff in it. And then you got back to work, right? And you got back to life, and you got back to all these issues, and you were out, and so what they did, and when was it you know filtered through and thought about it again? And so I think the power they had is they network with people. I mean, it's not a piece of paper, you know, or PowerPoint or something. It's this strong network that they built to, you know, reach out to others. So that's probably the best it can be.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I think we're you and Henry and I are convening tomorrow. So
tomorrow, check in. Yeah. All right. Great. Thank you.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.